Hi, this is Kate from the On Legs Agency. What I'd like to do today is show anyone that's currently in a leadership role or managerial role how to use the GROW model, which is a model that we use within the coaching arena, to do better appraisals, to turn the annual appraisal on its head and do it slightly differently. So, what is the GROW model? The GROW model is an acronym for goal, reality, options, and will. And basically, it's a model that we use within the coaching arena to help people achieve their goals by taking them through certain steps. So that's what the GROW model is. Just to make sure that we're both on the same page, appraisals, what do I mean by appraisal? The annual appraisal, which is where somebody comes in, a staff member comes in, and you talk them through the previous year or the previous 6 months, whatever the timeline might be, on their performance and how that performance has gone. Is it good, bad, indifferent? And that's usually what it is. What I found to date is the appraisal is usually a scored conversation, as in where do you score on the scale for good, bad, indifferent, 1 to 10. And it usually takes you through certain elements. Where are you on communication, teamwork, the job duties, KPIs and targets, etc., etc. And I've never really liked them. I've done them myself for years, but they didn't ever really sit with me. And I hadn't really thought of alternatives to doing it until the last couple of years. And in the last few years, I've been introducing the GROW model as an alternative to the annual appraisal. And the reason I think the GROW model is working better, and I'm seeing really good results out of it, is a lot of the time in the annual appraisal, we don't really have proper conversations. We don't really get to the nub. And I don't really see a huge amount of motivation leaving the table unless somebody's getting a pay rise. And it's really, really important to distinguish an appraisal versus a review, a salary review. The two aren't the same. And the two, I don't think, should happen in the same conversation. So an appraisal is, let's look at how the last year has been. Let's see what's worked. Let's see what we can, develop. Let's see what potentials we can look at. And the GROW model allows you to do that. So an example of the GROW model would be, let's say KPIs. I'll talk to the retail sector for this. So Mary, in regards to KPIs, that's one of the areas I'd like to discuss with you today in the appraisal. I've noticed that your IPC, your items per customer, are 1.75. That's a really good number. And that's a strong number. It is slightly behind what the store average is, however, at 1.9. I'm just wondering, in regards to that number, what do you think would be a realistic goal for you to achieve? What goal would you like to set yourself? What we're doing here, guys, is giving the goal and the power back to the person. We're asking them what they think. We're asking them to set their own target. And what I've usually found is Mary won't say 1.76. She'll say something like, well, what about 1.85 or 1.84? Closer to the goal that it needs to be to get in line with the store average, and a nice move on from where she currently is. And what you're doing here is Mary has set her own goal. You have not told Mary what she needs to do. And in allowing Mary to, decide on what it is she thinks she could do, she takes ownership of that goal. And we usually see better results. The next stage of the GROW model in the appraisal is the reality. So Mary, at 1.75, a good number, and lots of good stuff in there. What do you think's happening there? Talk to me about, your add-on ability. Talk to me about what's happening. And what we do at that stage is we talk to Mary about the reality of that particular area. We're talking about KPIs at the moment, the IPC. And Mary will say, well, you know what? I didn't read that, product knowledge enough. I could probably upskill in product knowledge. I think my product knowledge is probably not as good as it could be. Sometimes I think my shift patterns, can affect it. And we discuss all that. So you let Mary build the reality of what's happening and you discuss that back and forth. At no stage are you defending your position. At no stage are you telling Mary that she's wrong in having that reality. You're just listening and bouncing back and forth with Mary, which is very different to your normal appraisal technique. The next area we move Mary into is, okay, the options. Mary, given the goal that you want to set and the reality that you're currently in, what do you think you could do? What options would be available? And we ask Mary to write out our list. So the list might be, well, I could probably brush up on my project knowledge. I could probably, instead of skimming through the door at 9 o'clock, show up a few minutes early so I can read any updates that might be there that might help me. A bit of training would be very beneficial, etc., etc. So Mary lists everything that might work and might help. Then we move Mary into the will. What will you do, Mary? Let's pick 1 or 2 things. Let's not have 10 things. How achievable do you think they are? How are you going to do them? When will you do them? What's the timeline on this? How will we know it's done? What will it look like when it's finished? And Mary moves into that, what she's actually going to do. And that's the part where Mary takes full responsibility for the goal that she's set herself and the actions that she's going to take to get her to that place. And guys, that can be done with anything: communication, teamwork, a job role, etc., etc. I just used KPIs as an example. But that's a much more motivating, empowering appraisal than being sat down and told whether you're good or bad at something and whether you need to improve or not improve at something and being given a score. I would love to hear your thoughts on appraisals. I'd love to hear your thoughts on alternatives to appraisals and what type of results you're getting. Bye.